So the jury is now deliberating in the Trump criminal trial. The deliberations have lasted about 4 hours and 30 minutes or so. The jury's asked two questions. One question is to have a reread of the jury instructions. Another question was more substantive, where the jury requested some information. It was more of a request for information in a note that they sent to the judge. The note begins, "We, the jury, request David Pecker's testimony regarding his phone conversation with Trump, Pecker's decision not to finalize and fund the assignment of Karen McDougal's life rights, Pecker's testimony regarding the Trump Tower meeting, and Michael Cohen's testimony regarding the Trump Tower meeting." Karen, I don't like to read too much into notes and say, oh, this is definitely great for the prosecution or definitely great for this side. You and I both know that we've been burnt as trial lawyers thinking that a note meant one thing and it may have meant another. The note may be coming from one juror, not all of the jurors. But Karen, the overall consensus is, though, is this is showing that the jurors are really targeted and laser focused on a very specific time frame, though, when this whole scheme originated, right? And focusing on David Pecker's testimony, where Pecker's a colleague of Donald Trump. He talks about when they all met and came up with this scheme to interfere with the 2016 election. I mean, it's testimony like this. Look at page 1370 of the kind of David Pecker testimony, where David Pecker says, he said that I said that this story about Karen, about McDougal, since she's claiming that she has a relationship with you, should be taken off the market. And Mr. Trump said, quote, I don't buy stories because it always gets out. And then I said, I still think you should buy the story. And Mr. Trump said to me, I'll speak to Michael and he'll get back to you, referring to speaking to kind of Michael Cohen about that. And, then there's the broader kind of Trump Tower meeting where they all spoke about engaging in this scheme. So let me pause there, Karen. Do you think these questions are notable? Should we read into them any deeper? What's your overall sense of those questions and just where we're at generally right now?
I'm smiling because I'm so glad you clarified the Karen meant McDougal when you said it. So essentially, look, this is the torture part of any trial. It's the nail biting, tea leaf reading torture of what do they mean? What are they asking for? How does this go? And there's, as you said, you really can't glean much from it. It could be one juror that wants this. It could be many jurors. They could have just decided, okay, we're going to start from the beginning and start when this all started. And there are two good pieces of two good things, positive things I will glean from this. Number one is it shows that the jury system is legitimate, and it is not the way Donald Trump likes to say it is, or that it is somehow they are biased against him and the deck is stacked against him. If that were the case, you would have had a buzzer and they would have said guilty. They wouldn't have even listened. They would have just said, he keeps going around saying, oh, Manhattan juries, I can't get a fair trial. They're not going to listen to the evidence. They're just going to convict me. If that were the case, they've already been out more than 4 hours. They could have easily done that already. But what this shows is that they are actually deliberating, and they are looking to analyze the evidence. And so I think that's a great thing, because Donald Trump likes to delegitimize our systems and our the things that keep us safe, our criminal justice system in particular. He goes after the judge and says he's biased. He is not. I know this judge, and he's an excellent judge who gives everyone a fair trial. That's both his reputation, and that is what I've seen here. Same thing with the Manhattan DA's office and Alvin Bragg. He has nothing to do with Joe Biden. He has nothing to do with anything federal or or political. Alvin Bragg, like his predecessors before him, are elected by the people of the state of New York, county of Manhattan, and they implement the laws without fear or favor. And so he goes after them, he goes after the individual prosecutors, he goes after everybody. But these are 12 jurors who were picked equally by him. They weren't just thrown at him. He got a say in what jurors to choose. And so these are his jurors, his jury. They are people who happen to live in Manhattan. You can't categorize them as all one thing. And they are deliberating. They're going through the evidence. So that is one great thing that I'm very happy about, that the jury system is working and he's getting a fair trial. Number one. The other thing that I think what is good about this note is the prosecutor, Josh Steinglass, his theme in his summation was very much that the conspiracy to engage in the catch and kill started around the time of at this meeting at Trump Tower between Pecker, Cohen, and Trump. And that's what they're asking for, is that part of the testimony. And so I think that's a good thing. They're putting the prosecution to their burden. They're starting where the prosecution told them to start, and they want to know what the law is. What is the law that we have to apply to these facts? And so they want the readback of the law. So here's the difficult thing, or the annoying part. Because they didn't ask for, say, all of the testimony of David Pecker, they asked for specific portions of this testimony, and it may or may not be in one neat little area. It might be a little bit on where you just read, for example, but it might be in 10 other places throughout the transcripts in both direct and cross of the witnesses. So it's going to take the court reporter and the lawyers a long time to identify the places in the record. They're going to be working on it all night, I'm sure, that they want added to, that they want read back. And, every lawyer, when they look at that portion, if they see like, oh, if I only kept going another paragraph, that was really helpful for me, I want that in. And so they're going to argue that that should come in. And then the other side will say, but that's not responsive. That's not what they asked for. It's not part of that. And so there's going to be arguing back and forth potentially about which portions of the transcript are responsive to the note. And then at that point, the court reporter identifies those locations in the transcripts, and then the jury will sit there and in an open court where everybody else is, the reporters, members of the public, and Donald Trump, who is not allowed to leave the courtroom, or I should say the courthouse, during deliberations. All the parties have to stick around because there are notes and questions. And then everyone will sit there and listen to the court reporter read back that portion of the testimony and the portion and the charge. So we know the charge took about an hour. So that is going to be, that's going to take at least an hour to read that back. And then the portions of the testimony, it could be hours of read back when they get started tomorrow. And so that's how this is going to go. This is the long slog that is jury deliberations, and it's complete torture. I mean, the lawyers are now wondering, why do they want this? Why are they asking for that? What's so significant about this? And they're trying to read the tea leaves, and there is no, I don't know anyone who ever gets it right. A lot of times people, I don't want people to get stressed about it, but many juries ask for, can we have the definition of reasonable doubt again? And every time you hear it, it's terrifying. It's like, how could anyone ever do that, right? How could you ever get over that hurdle? Anyway, so that's what's happening. Like I said, the jury is working hard. They're doing their job, and they're actually deliberating. This is not anything like what Donald Trump said it was going to be like. And frankly, if he is convicted, I think it's important that everybody reminds the public of this fact, that he is getting a fair trial. They've already been deliberating for many hours, and it's going overnight to tomorrow. And I think it's going to go until Friday, frankly. That's what I think, at least.
Karen, will there be actually somebody reading back from the transcripts, a clerk or a lawyer? How does that work? So
Reporter.
today they're going and they're pulling the testimony, right? So the prosecution's going to find the testimony they think is responsive. The defense will find the testimony they think is responsive. There'll be this meet and confer process where they see if they can agree, right? Ultimately, the judge may have to get involved to determine what's going to be read, but the jury doesn't just get a stack of papers. Someone's going to have to sit there and read it to them.
Yes. So the court reporter is it's also known as a stenographer, is a person who sits in the courtroom with one of those little machines and they type in shorthand. It's fascinating. And the typing creates paper, like this long and narrow paper that is in shorthand. And it also transcribes it in real time on a computer that the court reporter then has to go and edit and certify that that's the actual transcript as that they entered it. And then that court reporter will the one who took that down, the one who did that, because they switch throughout the day because it's a lot of work for one court reporter, and they switch throughout the day every hour or whatever the rotation is. So whoever did the portion of the testimony that is responsive to the question, since it's their work, they are the ones who will read it back to the jury.
So, Karen, the jury has thus far deliberated for 4 hours, 49 minutes, and 33 seconds. This, according to Politico, which has a pretty good timer, right? The jury went back home right around like 4:10, 4:30-ish, Karen, today, while the lawyers sorted through the questions, and the lawyers spent considerable time going through the testimony, right? So the jury's going to show up tomorrow. While the jury's deliberating, Karen, though, isn't it true that Trump has to be in the courtroom the entire time with the defense lawyers, or they have to be in the courthouse the
Yes.
entire time and they can't leave the courthouse? Explain that to our viewers.
Yeah. So look, just before I explain that, I just want to say one other thing about the readback process. You know, a lot of news anchors and reporters are astonished at how just inefficient is a good way of putting it. The court system is, and you just reminded me when you said, so someone is actually reading it to them, and why can't they just give them the transcripts, right? Why can't they just hand it to them and let them go back and do it? And there's really good reason for that. And the reason they don't just hand them a hard copy of transcripts and it can't go into the jury room is because the paper copy of the transcript is a transcript of all proceedings, not just the testimony. And it'll have sidebars, right? The bench conferences that jury did not hear. It'll have objections. Some of the objections are sustained, and an objection that is sustained is not evidence. And so that question without the answer, since it was sustained, will not go to the jury. And there's no clean copy that's only testimony. And so that's why that doesn't go back to them and why it has to be read to them. Anyway, so that I just wanted to clarify that. Your question. Oh, so yeah, everybody, because the jury is deliberating nearby, and then when they have a question or a request, they send a note, they buzz a buzzer, and you know it's torture. You hear the buzzer. It's a loud, ugly sounding buzzer that you hear in the courtroom. It's why the parties and the lawyers and everybody has to stick around near the courthouse, because the judge doesn't want to be waiting while they go and find somebody an hour later. You can't really do anything until everybody sees the note and everybody agrees and they discuss it and how they're going to handle the note. I mean, there's some notes that the parties will determine that there's no reason to bring the jury back in. They're just going to tell them, oh, that's inappropriate. You're not allowed to have that. Like if the jury wanted summations, for example, they're not allowed to have that. And so if they ask for if they send a note out saying we'd like summations read, the judge would just basically send the court officer back to tell them that's not permissible, that kind of a thing. Yeah, so that's
Also, we had Harry Littman from Talking Feds YouTube channel, is affiliated with the Midas Touch Network. He was in the courthouse today, and he reported how Donald Trump fell asleep when the jury was getting their instructions from Justice Merchan. Trump asleep, head back and to the side. Harry Littman also wrote, can't begin to fathom the depths of the client problems the Trump lawyers have, but I would have done something, anything, a toy buzzer, say, to keep him awake during the jury deliberations. Not a good look for the jury before it gets the case, Harry also wrote. And then a little bit ago, Donald Trump and his lawyers left for the day. And one of the things that Donald Trump was complaining about to the press, it's always this deluge of disinformation. And one of the things Trump said is that a lot of key witnesses were not called. Let me play this for you, and let me play for you a few other clips of Trump from about half hour, 45 minutes ago or so. And then, Karen, I want to get your take on it. Here, Donald Trump is saying a lot of witnesses were not called, and he thinks that's very unfair. Let me play this for you.
Time ago. But a lot of key witnesses were not called. Look at your list. Look at the players. And you know who I'm talking about. You can take 5 or 6 of them. Why didn't they call those witnesses? They didn't call them because they would have been on our side. And it's a shame. And in particular, one witness who's now suffering gravely because of what's happened, because of the viciousness of these thugs. The vicious people, what they've done to that person. And you know who I'm talking about. And they didn't call him as a witness. They didn't call anybody as a witness. And all these people they could have called. And so,
I mean, also, Donald Trump, you could have called them. Your lawyer, who is apparently a mannequin, who just stands by. I mean, how weird is that, Karen? You got Todd Blanche like making that strange face, and like, I don't even know what he's doing. But yeah, that mannequin standing next to you, called your lawyer, could have called these witnesses. You could have testified as well. There's a lot more clips of him saying that. I don't need to show all the clips of Donald Trump whining. People get it. He whines. But Karen, what's your response to him whining about that?
First of all, that's a violation of the gag order. It's not, the gag order doesn't say you can't identify people by name. It just says you can't talk about the witnesses. You can't just like wink, wink, nod, nod, and here's a hint, right? So if the gag order is still in effect, which is, it's another open question is how long will the gag order remain in effect? And I know that I got a notification today that the Trump lawyers filed an appeal from their denial of their, basically they're appealing the gag order to the highest courts, the Court of Appeals. And they did that today. I don't know why they don't just go straight back into Judge Merchan and say, hey, why is there still a gag order? Now, if I were Judge Merchan, I'd still definitely keep it in effect, especially for the jury. But even after the trial for the jury. But I'm sorry, this is potentially a violation. I guess, is it someone who could be a witness in the case? Probably not, I guess, because now the case is over or the testimony's over. But my God, that is absolutely walking close to the line, even though he didn't mention Weisselberg by name. Everybody knows who he's talking about. But what really bugs me about what he's saying is these people are more in his camp than anybody. He could have called Weisselberg. He could have called Schiller. He could have called Eric or Don Jr., right? I mean, I can't even believe that Todd Blanche made that argument in summation. Because if I were the jury, I would be like, you could have called them too. You put a defense on. You put Bob Costello on, so you chose to put on a defense, and that's who you put on, not your own children, who obviously, if they had something that was exonerating to you, they would be jumping up and down to come testify for you, just like there they are sitting in the courtroom right there. They were sitting there during summations. They could have come and testified on your behalf. So could have Weisselberg, just because he's in jail. I used to produce defendants, or I should say witnesses from jail all the time. It's easy. You just do an order to produce them. They're brought in by corrections, and they go to the back of They remain in custody in the back of the courtroom, behind the courtroom, and then they're brought out from the back to the witness stand instead of through the door, the public door. And so, I just don't really understand why that to me that argument backfires big time. And the jury's smart enough to know that. So, and so go ahead and make that argument publicly, but people should push back on that hard because that's just ridiculous.
Now, Karen, of course, you're still going to remain a co-host of Legal AF. I don't want anybody to worry about that, but you have a new show that you're launching here on the Midas Touch Network. So in addition to co-hosting Legal AF and leading our coverage here with all things Trump criminal trial, tell the audience about the new show that you're going to be launching here on the Midas Touch Network.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the show. We're actually launching it tonight. It'll be on after Legal AF. Of course, I would never not be part of Legal AF. And this is with two other women. We're calling it Mistrial, and it's with Danya Perry, who I also work with, and she was the lawyer, or is the lawyer, who represents Michael Cohen in this and other things, and she's incredible, and she's been on our show before, and also Kathleen Rice, who is the former elected district attorney of Nassau County, New York, the first woman, and former member of Congress in the U.S. House of Representatives, representing Long Island in New York. And she was not only a member of Congress during the Trump administration, but she was there on January 6th. So it's going to be our maiden episode is tonight, where we chat about representing Michael Cohen and the Trump trial. And Kathleen talks about her experience working under the Trump administration, even though it's a separate branch of government, but being there during that time and being there on January 6th. We are super excited about this show. We're super excited to have it on the Midas Touch Network. So it's really great.
So there'll be a live Legal AF tonight, same time as always, right? 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. And then immediately following that, everybody should stay tuned for Mistrial, 3 of the top former female prosecutors. And it's an incredible show. I'm excited to watch that tonight. And
it's just people in the chat. I just see what they're saying. It's Mistrial, MISS trial, just because it's 3 women.
I absolutely love the name, and the whole branding around it's pretty incredible too. So shout out to our entire team. Shout out to Sydney, who's one of our new editors as well, and producers, who's worked with you on the show. So just an incredible team right there. Any final words, Karen, or last things you want to say, rather, to all the Legal AFers, Midas Mighty, about what they should be paying attention to tomorrow as the jury resumes deliberations after 4 hours and 49 minutes and 33 seconds of deliberations thus far today?
I don't think anyone should expect a very quick verdict. I think this is going to go for a while. I think we might have a Friday afternoon verdict, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went into next week as well. So have patience and have faith in the system. The jury system is one of the most important one of the most important parts of our society, and jurors are public servants, and they're doing their civic duty, and it's a very important thing. So we should all be respectful and supportive of the whole thing.
I saw a lot of people also saying Dina Dahl's name. I want to remind people Dina Dahl's going to have her own show as well. So, and we're working with Dina on the details there. So Dina will have her own show, and she's done an incredible job as well, filling in for Michael Cohen on Political Beatdown. We're just working through the logistics of her show. So a lot of expansion here at the Midas Touch Network right there. There it is right there. What I love it. A lot of expansion here at the Midas Touch Network. And by the way, that's thanks to all of your support for helping us continuing to grow this network. So I know you all know about patreon.com/Midas Touch. You know, we're not funded by outside investors here. So one of the ways we build this brick by brick is is really through you, is through those emojis that you see. As I always say, it's probably not the greatest business model, whereas our competitors are funded by billionaires or decabillionaires, that we're funded with emojis, pro-democracy sponsors, and Patreon. But we make it work because this community is so strong. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch, and also check out the gear, store.MeidasTouch.com. And of course, our gear made a cameo at the Trump trial during the cross-examination of Michael Cohen, where they tried to say store.MeidasTouch.com gear was Michael Cohen's gear, which it wasn't. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm excited for Legal AF tonight, and I'm excited for mistrial. Show that graphic one more time to every. I love it. I love it.
I love it.
We'll see everybody soon. Karen, thanks as always for leading this coverage and making the Meidas Touch Network the most watched network on digital for our coverage of the Trump criminal trial. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the Meidas Touch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.